And my answer to that question for my clients is yes, you definitely should. So, one question that comes up often is whether or not you, as a homeowner selling your home in North Carolina, should have your own attorney to represent you at the closing. Now, what typically happens here in our state is a buyer is going under contract on a property, and typically their real estate agent, the buyer's agent, is going to recommend to them an attorney to use for the closing. And that attorney is going to hold escrow, right? So they're the ones that collect all the money from everybody and then disperse all the funds. And they actually record the deed with the county. Now, that real estate attorney represents the buyer in the transaction. And oftentimes, what we see with other agents is the seller will essentially just sort of tag on to that attorney, and the attorney will charge them a few $100s to prepare the paperwork for the seller, get the payoff for the seller, and do that work. But it's very clearly made to the seller that that attorney does not represent them. Now, look, the majority of the time, things go fine and there's no issue, and the attorney doesn't have to get involved in a seller issue. However, if there is an issue with you as the seller with your sale, maybe there's an encroachment or you found out about an easement or anything could happen, right? Or maybe there was something that came up during due diligence negotiations. You don't have legal representation because that attorney represents the buyer. So, for our clients, we always recommend that we have an attorney who represents you as the seller. Now, this doesn't mean it costs more money because it doesn't. It doesn't make the process more complicated because it doesn't. We manage this for our clients internally, and actually, it adds a tremendous amount of convenience for you as the seller. So, I'll just give you a quick example. So, let's just say you're under contract or you're going to close on March 27th, and you're doing all the things that you're, trying to do when you're moving and changing homes. You're packing, you're cleaning your house, you're patching holes, you're getting your house ready to go, right? You're getting the moving truck to show up. It can be a little chaotic. It can be a little stressful if you have to, the day of closing, get to some attorney's office, and maybe that attorney's office is, you know, 30 miles away from you, and you're fighting traffic to get to this place to sign paperwork so that you can close. Well, when we have our attorney represent you, you could actually sign early. So maybe your closing is the 27th, but it's more convenient for you in your life to go in on the 24th and sign your paper. And it only takes usually 15 to 20 minutes. You're going to walk in, you're going to sign a few pieces of paper. You're going to include the instructions for how you want to receive your proceeds, if that's a wire, for example, and you're done. And that attorney who represents you is going to send that paperwork package down to the attorney who represents the buyer. And in 3 days, on the 27th, the buyers are going to come in and they're going to spend an hour signing all their paperwork. And they've already got yours, and they record, and you get the proceeds. So the nice thing is that you can sign your seller paperwork at a time that's convenient for you. And look, if something were to come up where we needed an attorney to get involved and help you as the seller, then we have that person who's in your court. And this happened not long ago. We actually had a situation. It was a probate where we represented the seller. Our attorney did all the upfront work to make sure that there was no issue with our seller being able to convey the property. And there were a lot of errors in the will in this instance. So what ended up happening is our seller signed all the paperwork. That paperwork went over to the buyer's attorney. They signed. And a couple of days later, the buyer's attorney tried to come back and require that all of these heirs come in and sign on this sale. But because our client had an attorney that we recommended that was representing her, our attorney was easily able to step in, make it very well known that this had all been addressed up front and that title insurance had already agreed to accept the risk. So the bottom line here is, should you as a seller have your own attorney? And the answer is yes. It doesn't cost you any more money, but it brings you tremendous convenience and peace of mind knowing that your legal interest will be protected in the deal.